Hello, San Juan Zephyrs fans. Welcome to the show. It's time for the 2024 season preview. As you know, we made the playoffs last season, but we lost in the first round to the Cardinals. So now it's time to start again. I'll give you guys a quick rundown of the roster, show you what we have going on, some offseason acquisitions, and I'll show you where we are predicted to finish in the standings. Good news, we are predicted to be in the playoffs again. So that's cool. I'll show you some new teams because the league expanded and whatever else you guys want to jump into. But first, we'll start with this, as always. All right, so here we go. This is our fifth season, the fourth with me controlling the team. First season, everything was simmed. And then this will be my fourth year. We stayed in the majors. We did not get relegated after our promotion this time. So that's good news. Let's take a look, though, at who did get relegated and how everything shook out there. So we'll take a look at the standings here. And I'll first show you two new teams. So we added a 16th team in each league just to even things out for the scheduling so that this will make it easier to do 162 games. So we have two new Canadian teams. We have the Vancouver Redbirds and the Calgary Pioneers. These are names generated by the game, and they were two that popped up when I was going through the generator, and I liked them, so we're sticking with them. So Vancouver Redbirds, Calgary Pioneers, and then over in the National League, you'll see the San Juan Zephyrs and the Memphis Tar Heels, three teams that you don't see in real-life Major League Baseball. So Memphis was promoted from the Premier Baseball League. And then over in the AL, there is not a PBL team, one of the original PBL teams. Everybody who had been relegated from the majors was promoted back up. And I'll show you what things look like down in the Premier Baseball League. So you've got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Cincinnati Reds down there as a couple of major league teams currently playing down there after being relegated. So we'll see if they can make their way back up to the majors. Arizona was sent back down. I believe Cincinnati has played 2 years in a row. I think they were relegated and then didn't make it back up, if I remember correctly. I think they were in the PBL last season too. So let's take a look at the Zeffs. And I'll run through what we're looking at in our lineup and then what we have going for some of our prospects and things like that. And I'll keep an eye on the comments here. We got GM Pat in the house. Appreciate the support. First place O's went with an 0-0 record. I'll show you where the O's are predicted to finish in the standings. I'll actually do that next before we jump into our lineup. Yeah, going to rack up some miles on the trips between San Juan to Calgary. Those road trips will be long. One thing I did is I changed up the schedule just to make things a little more like it might be in real life if something like this were to take place with the league. If you look at our schedule, you'll notice we have a lot of either 4-game series or 5-game series. So when we travel or teams travel to visit us in San Juan, I've changed the way that the AI, the scheduler will work in terms of the default number of games. I think I have it set now so that it was maybe default to, it was either to 3 before, and now the norm is 4, or the norm was 4 and I set it to 5. So you'll see much more often we play a long series, like 4 and 5 games, so that once we do travel somewhere or somebody travels to us, they're there for a little bit. Like the Nats, we had there to open up the season, and we played them 5 straight games in Washington before we come back to open the season at home with 4 against San Francisco. And then it's off to New York for 5 against the Mets. So kind of cool. You'll get to see in some cases, you'll get to see every starting pitcher when you play a series. There'll be less, dodging the ace pitcher if they happen to pitch in the series before. Let's flip back over to here. I'll do this first. Let me see if we can see the preseason predictions. Okay, so we'll look at the AL first. You'll notice in the AL down at the very bottom of the standings, Vancouver, the expansion team, not looking like they're going to have a great season. And then Texas right now, if things play out as predicted, would be the other team to be relegated. We'd have the top 6 make the playoffs in this league. So the top 2 get a bye in the first round, and then you have 3 against 6, 4 against 5, and then it reseeds after that, so that the number 1 team would get whoever the worst seed was that was left, and the 2 would get the other. So in this scenario here, if it plays out this way, you'd have Toronto, the Angels, Cleveland, Minnesota, the Yankees, and Oakland making the playoffs. It looks like Tampa's going to be right there with Oakland. Seattle's not far behind. If you want to check out the top hitters and top pitchers as those are predicted to go. And then down here in the NL, we have making the playoffs. It's predicted to be Dodgers, Braves, Padres, Cardinals, Phillies, Zephyrs. We would barely edge out the Rockies. So I actually don't know that I'll keep the team exactly like it is right now. I'd like to try to bump us up a little bit so that we will exceed the preseason predictions. And if you look at some of the stats, we're predicted to be a team really built around pitching mostly. We aren't going to hit a lot of home runs. We're going to steal a bunch of bases. We're going to hit decently for average compared to the rest of the league. I don't remember if we have any leaders, but down there at the bottom of the standings, you'll see Memphis and the Giants. And in this scenario, Calgary, the expansion team, would not be relegated, which would be a pretty cool accomplishment for them. So yeah, I don't think we have any Zephyrs in the predictions here. All right, so let's. Oh, we lost the screen here. Hang on. There we go. So let's check out the ball club. We'll start with the pitching staff. Actually, because of the way that worked, we're going to check out the lineups first. So there are some prospects that I don't have up right now, and there's also a couple positions where I've got somebody in and may make a move here. So let's run down what the team looks like right now, and I'll just let you guys know, maybe some moves that are coming up. We've got at third base, we've got Oswald Peraza. He was a guy I force played at third base for spring training because I want to find a way to get his bat in the lineup. He has some definite potential there. He's only 24, hasn't really stuck in the majors just yet. Played some second and short, and he has a decent arm. So I have him. This is torque. What am I doing here? Here he is. Sorry. This is Peraza. So you can see he has decent potential here as a hitter. He's fast and he has a decent arm, so I have him at third base. But I've force played him there for spring training, got him up to a 55. I think he had 0 experience at third base. And, ultimately, if I acquire a better third baseman, he may shift over to second if he's hitting. He's only 23 years old, and, he has a lot of potential yet that he hasn't reached. So for some reason, sometimes this game, where I hover does not let me click exactly where it's hovering. All right, so we've got Torque then is back. We've got Zach Veen, who is a prospect that I talked about last season. Look at these numbers here. If this guy pans out, he's going to be good. And he did really well down in AAA last season in 81 games there. Came up and did well in 7 games for us, 172 OPS. And he deserves a shot. He's our starting right fielder for now. So here's one of the offseason acquisitions. I brought this guy in through a trade. I really didn't have to give up much to get him. He's strictly going to be a designated hitter. I needed a big bat that I could put in as a DH. He struggled in spring training for me. If you look at his numbers, in not a lot of plate appearances, he put up some really good numbers for the Twins. His OPS plus was 163 his first season in the majors, and then 131 the next season. And, pretty good WAR in a small number of plate appearances. So we'll see what he can do as a full season DH for us. He's a switch hitter, and I just needed to bring in another bat there. And I wanted to get somebody cheap, see what they could do, and then we'll take it from there. We've got Margot back in center field, Josh Lowe back at first base. He struggled last season, so I'm really hoping that he can turn things around. He got a 218 last year. Hedges is back as the catcher. Banfield actually had kind of taken his job for a bit last season, but coming out of spring training, my manager has Hedges in there. Both of them are strong defensively, but Hedges has a bit of an edge there. Iglesias is in as our shortstop again. He's played some second base for us too. And then we've got Hector Leon in at second base right now. I also have some waiver claims in on several players that might give us some infield depth because when I start to get into my bench here, I've got some guys up like this guy Florentino who still needs some time in the majors. In the minors before I'm going to really give him. You can see that's Rosario, but there he is again. Hang on. This is nonsense here with the way this isn't letting me click where I want it to. Okay, here we go. So this guy has a great glove. He's only 22, but he's on my 40-man, and that's why I have him up instead of some other guys. I will go and show you. I'm actually going to see if I can fix this issue where it's not letting me click. Let's see if it stays full screen for me. All right, there we go. All right, sorry about the technical difficulties. I think we're going to be good from here. And now when I click, it should take me where I'm trying to go. I'm rusty. It's been a little while. I took some time off after the playoffs. So anyway, he's on my 40-man. I'm going to give him some playing time right now as just a backup until a couple of things happen. I have some, like I said, I have some waiver claims in for some middle infielders. Or I might pull a deal, and I just need somebody in there just to start the season without bringing somebody up off my 40-man, which brings me to some of my prospects. So I'll take you through the rest of the lineup in a second. But one of my best prospects right here is Kevin Made. And I don't know if he actually pronounced his last name Made or not, but his defense is amazing. Some of his numbers aren't quite where I want him to be in terms of his ratings and where they are currently related to potential. He's definitely going to be a glove player, but he might do okay at getting on base with some of his ratings. He's not going to hit for any power really, but he did not do well with the bat in spring training, and I was planning to start him at AAA anyway because he hasn't played above AA. Last season I started him in A, and then he moved up to AA, and I don't know if he'll be up as my shortstop at some point this season or not, but there's a chance he could be with this glove. So I'm just waiting on him for a little bit. And while I'm down here, I'll show you guys one other prospect. This is a pitcher who is a really good prospect of mine, but he ended up getting injured last year, and he's still up for another 4 months. Elbow ligament reconstruction. So he and Made actually came over in the same trade. So I'm hoping that he can recover too, because that could end up being a good one for us. I ended up giving up this pitcher here who's out right now with a torn rotator cuff, who's already kind of getting older and hadn't really panned out. And then a decent prospect, somebody they really liked, who I wasn't sure how he was going to pan out after pitching pretty well at Double-A, but he wasn't lighting things on fire. So I went ahead and made the trade because the two prospects I was able to get back were so strong. So in terms of other prospects, I've got this guy who was a first-round pick. I've got this guy, Juan DeLuna, who was an international free agent. Zach Veen is in there. There's Kevin Made. There's Florentino, the guy I have on the roster for now. A few other guys round out my prospects that make the top 200 here. So we'll see how it pans out. I don't know if this pitcher's going to recover from his injury. Might be a little while till either of these two guys are up. And then I think the guys we're really going to see right now in terms of prospects making an impact are Veen and maybe Made later this season. So let me finish up on the lineups. So in terms of the guys we have coming off the bench, Rosario is a guy I have who can play all three outfield positions. I actually put him in right or left. I forget which one he didn't have a lot of experience in, but last year when he spent some time in the minors recovering from an injury, I force played him, and then he got some more time there in spring training. And we'll see if his bat comes around. At times he has hit, but then he's been kind of inconsistent. So he's up as my fourth outfielder at the moment. And he's 24, so it's getting to the point where, he's kind of got to start to pan out as a prospect here in the next couple of seasons. Celestino's a guy who had been on the team and at one point had looked pretty good. It was when we were in the PBL. He put up 2.4 WAR, 120 OPS plus, and then last season he fell off a little bit here, and he's decent enough defensively. So he's currently my fifth outfielder. If this team's going to be competitive this season, I don't really think that he's going to be in the picture unless he all of a sudden breaks out. So for the moment, he's there while I think about some other moves that I might want to make. One of the places I might add somebody is a fifth outfielder other than him, who also is, a good enough bat that he could DH. Or if it's a really strong defensive player with a decent bat, I could shift one of my other guys like Torque or Veen into the DH position occasionally. So that's one thing I'm thinking about doing. I also was looking at a trade with the Rockies for Arenado as a third baseman, and I can do it for three pitchers. I'd have to give up three pretty solid pitchers. So now's a good time to jump over to the pitchers. They want this guy, Lewis Thorpe, who's currently my third pitcher, and who I really am hoping has a breakout season. He wasn't great in spring training, pitched really well in the PBL when we were down there a couple seasons ago. He's 28 years old, had an okay season for me last year, but has some really strong ratings, and I'm hoping this is the season he kind of puts it together. A little worried about his stamina at 50, but maybe he's a guy who can give me 6 solid innings. But he's one of the guys they want. They want him. They want this guy, Jesus Ortiz, who's a big prospect of mine right now, but getting older, 26, and he really needs to stick in the majors. He pitched well in a couple seasons ago in Double-A, pitched well last year in Triple-A, came up for a bit at the end of the season and did well for me, and I'm really interested to see what he does. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of keep an eye on how Arenado's doing and how these guys are faring on the big club, and then maybe make that deal. They also want one other pitcher, and I could try to tweak it a bit and maybe get him to look at some other guys, but they also want this guy, Bryce Jarvis, who was a prospect I told you guys about last year. His stamina really fell off when I got him. I thought he was going to be a really good starting pitching prospect. He might end up being more of a bullpen guy, but he did really well in AAA last year, came up into the majors and did pretty well. I just don't have room for him at the moment, but he'll be up at some point. As soon as there's an injury or if somebody's not doing well, I'm going to have him up. GM Pat was pointing out we got a couple of Fakos legends at the top of the rotation. We do, except it's not that Luis Castillo. But Marquez was a guy I got in the offseason. I'll tell you guys about that trade in a second. But this is a different Luis Castillo. This is a guy who I picked up as an international free agent. He was a minor league free agent signing a few seasons ago out of Cuba. And he's been really good for me. Last year, he was one of my best pitchers. He put up 3.5 WAR last year. His ERA plus was good. I was pretty happy with him. He at times walked some guys, maybe more than I would have liked. His strikeouts were down last year per 9 versus what he had been putting up in the PBL and then what he did in AAA. But we'll see how it goes with him. I like him as one of my top 3 pitchers. And I did get Marquez in the offseason. I'll show you that trade. So I was a little surprised that they were willing to make it. But the Rockies took him as part of a package for Severino, who was coming off an injury. And he's still considered fragile. My scout thought he had fallen off a little bit. If you remember, he was a big free agent signing for me last year, and he pitched in 22 games and then got hurt, missed the rest of the season, including the playoffs. So I went ahead and made this deal. And then I don't know if I made the right decision here. It was not really usually how I do things, but after I got Marquez and he's going to be at the top of my rotation and he was predicted to be, he was, I think when going into spring training, he was predicted to be one of the league leaders in pitching. I decided to extend him. So he's 29 and now I've got him till he's 34 and hopefully he ends up being pretty solid. I thought I'd try to get him under contract now rather than wait. And if he had a good season, have it be tough to do after the season. But I've got him for 4 seasons after this at $19 million and then a player option. I may regret this, or if he pitches well, I may be really happy that I made this move. Hopefully he is going to be good until he's about 34 years old, and then he can move on. So in terms of the rest of the pitching staff, speaking of fake Orioles legends, I got another question here. Why does your manager have 3 lefty specialists? That's actually, my manager didn't set that up. I set that up, and I'm going to change one of those guys out and probably have them be middle relief. But 2 of those guys are going to be my lefty specialists. And I think that, I don't know, I may move Sheffield because he has probably the best stamina of any of them. And I may make him middle relief and then a secondary role as a long guy. So he's most likely going to be moved out of there. But I don't think the manager did that. That was me as I was playing around with it. So thanks for the question, GM Pat. Always appreciate you stopping by. So speaking of some other Orioles legends, you may notice Jordan Hicks in there. I wasn't really happy with the options I had for in the offseason for some starting pitchers, but I did see an opportunity to beef up the bullpen again, which has been definitely one of our strengths the last season or so. So I was able to go out and get him as a free agent signing. He was one of the better arms available out there. And I went and I spent a bunch on him, but I have money in the budget, and this was a place where I felt like I could turn us into a better team. So I have some other guys I could move in the bullpen. I'm just going to kind of see how everything goes. I may not need as many of these sort of stopper, closer, setup type guys as I have, especially looking at some of the guys I might have down in AAA. So we'll see what happens there. I definitely made a couple moves budget-wise with Marquez signing him and with getting Jordan Hicks, where I just spent a little money beyond where I normally might spend it when I play this game. But we are competitive faster than I thought we'd be. And I'd like to not only avoid relegation, but if we can sneak into that 6th playoff spot again this year or better, that's fantastic. So I thought we would kind of be last season and even this season a team that was just trying to stay in the majors. But we quickly became a team that was able to get into the playoff race. And I wanted to make some moves to try to keep us there. And there just weren't a lot available in terms of big bats or great starting pitchers. So Jordan Hicks it is. Going to come in and just try to have the most dominant bullpen in baseball. And in terms of the rest of the pitching staff, yeah, so we've got Diaz, Hicks, and Bork on the back end. I really like those guys. Hernandez was also solid. Ortiz is a guy I was talking about earlier. We'll see how he does. And then I've got the 3 lefties. I definitely like having 3 lefties out of the bullpen. I don't know if all 3 of them will stick. This guy I'm not sure about. He was a very inexpensive free agent option just for 1 season, $2.8 million. And I am going to see how he does, but I really wanted to have 3 lefty options. He's definitely a guy that if he's not performing well, you might see him out of the picture to bring up whoever's pitching well in AAA. And now, in terms of also, trying to establish a dominant bullpen, here's another guy I went out and got. And here you can see the trade. I picked up a couple other prospects along with him. And Kello was a guy who pitched really well for me, but I felt like he was not quite as good as some of my other right-handers in the bullpen, like the 3 I have at the back of the bullpen. And he was going to end up just being a middle relief guy. And I wanted to get a more dominant lefty, so I was able to flip him for a lefty who's more expensive, but I think gives me some better options out of the bullpen. So that was the story behind that trade. And then in terms of starting rotation, I talked about the top 3, Marquez, Castillo, and Thorpe, but Jeff Hoffman and Jordan Montgomery are both back. Jordan Montgomery was one of my best pitchers last season. And I don't know why my coach has him slotted in 5th, but we'll see what happens over the course of the season. He was certainly one of my top pitchers last year. And then Hoffman was another option. I thought of him as more of like a 5th guy. And he's back with the team this year. He's really inexpensive, $1.3 million. And we'll see if he can do something like he did last season, where he was basically a 5th starter and sometimes a long guy out of the bullpen. But I was really happy with the way he pitched. And 118 ERA plus, put up 1.9 WAR. And he was fine as a guy I could kind of have float back and forth between long relief and the 5th spot in the starting rotation. So with some other guys I have down in AAA or even AA, if any of them are doing well, I could see them coming up and either working out of the bullpen or, Hoffman may be a guy who moves in and out of the rotation. All right, GM Pat or any other viewers, if you have any other questions in the comments, if you want me to show anything else here about the ball club, just let me know. I'm going to get started on the season pretty soon here. We open it up with 5 games against the Nats. So I'll get to see my whole starting rotation in that first series. Really interested to see what some of these guys in the lineup do. Like if Veen is good enough to stick right now. I want to see what my DH Kita does. I want to see if Peraza has a good enough bat and plays well enough at third base, or if I'm going to go out and maybe make that trade for Arenado. And then I guess just seeing if, Josh Lowe really needs to have a bounce back season. He was a really good prospect when I picked him up in the Rule 5 draft several seasons ago now. But last year, he did not have a good season. He was pretty good the year before in the PBL. He was even good in the majors 2 seasons ago when he was only at that point like 23 or 24. He looked promising. He, at 106 OPS plus, which a little bit above league average, and he put up 2.7 WAR. And I thought, he would continue to build from there. Better OPS plus the next season in the PBL, same WAR, but then last season just fell off just tremendously. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. We'll see how he does, but I might have to move somebody else to first base or go out and get somebody if he's not hitting. And he's 26 years old, so he needs to kind of start panning out here soon. And let's see. We got some other questions. Let's see. Andrew is asking, have made any tweaks to the PBL league settings or still going with your original setup? Okay, so that league, so like I said earlier, the major leagues, I added a team to each league so that we've got 16 and 16. The PBL was originally a 15-team league, so I made that 15 just like the AL and the NL had the 15 teams. But I wanted to add a 16th team there, but it won't let me add less than 2 teams. So I have to go in and see if I can change something in the settings or if I can override it somehow. So for this season, the PBL is still a 15-team league. What I am thinking of doing maybe after this season is going in and finding a 3rd league for down below the PBL so that then we can have 3 tiers where we're doing promotion and relegation. So I might take like the here, I can go in and show you guys. There's some other leagues, like I could take the Pioneer League. There was one other one I was looking at, but I think that was one of the front runners, or the Frontier League was another one I looked at. I could take one of these leagues and make that the 3rd tier league. And what I might do then is assign one of those teams up to the PBL to make that an even 16 teams for scheduling purposes as well. So nobody has off days waiting for a team to play. So I might do that. Or I could combine some of these teams, like take the Frontier League. I forget how many they are in the Pioneer League, or some of these smaller leagues, and combine 2 of them to field that 3rd division down below the PBL. So that's what I'm thinking about for the moment. But otherwise, the PBL is pretty much as I had it to begin with. Just top 4 make the playoffs. And then there's a champion, and the top 4 are the ones who are promoted each year. Thanks, PW. Glad you're enjoying some fake baseball here with the San Juan Zephyrs. So in terms of what's next, I'll start the season, and then I don't know when I'll do my next update, but definitely by the trade deadline at the latest. If nothing's really going off course, I may just sim that far. But if some interesting things start to happen and I feel like I need to give you guys an update before I get to the trade deadline, I'll go ahead and do another stream. But I'm definitely looking forward to jumping in and seeing what we can do with the Zephs. It's been a little slow for me in terms of having time to stream. And so I've been in kind of a holding pattern on this simming side, which is tough because sometimes, you really want to move the team forward and see what's happening. But I wanted to do this stream update before I started the season to show you guys what the team looked like. So now that I had a little time to do this, I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the season, and I will keep you guys posted. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed on the channel, please hit subscribe down below and smash the like button on the video, which can help that maybe get seen by more people. And then this channel does now have a custom URL because I passed the 100 subscribers that you need to have in order to get that. So it's youtube.com/fakesportsdynasties. So that's the quickest way to get to the channel. I really appreciate you guys checking out the stream, and go Zephs. I'll talk to you guys soon.